Hi, I'm Kristen Puryear. I'm Chief Ecologist with the Maine Natural Areas Program. We're part of the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I would like to point out that it looks like, when you come out, it just looks like a big field with several trees in it, a really nice place to walk. But what you're actually seeing is an exceptional and critically imperiled natural community type, not only in Maine, but throughout the northeast of the United States. This parcel here is about 60 or 70 acres, and while not very big, it's one of only 4 that we have left in the state of Maine that are being maintained in any way for the particular resources that are out here. So that includes the open grassland, the native pitch pine, and a whole suite of rare and endemic species, including several moths and butterflies, snakes, rare plants, and a whole suite of grassland birds. So one of the things that makes this grassland so unique is actually underneath our feet. It's underlain by tons and tons and feet of glacial outwash. And this sandy, very rapidly draining soil is what not only promotes the different species that are out here, but also is limited in its extent throughout Maine. It's also one of the things that makes it really easy to develop. It's flat, it's already open, it drains well, so anybody who wants to put in a house or a subdivision or a parking lot doesn't have to worry about water or removing a lot of trees. So open grasslands like we have here, spotted with pitch pine, used to be more common throughout the northeastern United States. Old records from the 1500s of explorers, people into the 1700s doing surveys, documented tens of thousands of these open grasslands that were native and maintained likely by Native Americans for thousands of years prior. So it used to be a much more expansive type of natural community, and all of the unique plants and animals that are associated with it have diminished significantly over time. There used to be a species called the heath hen that looked like a little forest chicken. There were so many of them that people didn't want to eat them more than twice a week. They complained if they had to eat them more than twice a week. And they were fully extinct by the 1930s or 1940s throughout this region. They were endemic to the Northeast. So what we have here again is a very unique and limited and declining type of natural community. One of the most important things that can keep it open and keep these species thriving is actually prescribed fire. And several of the species you see out here are well adapted to prescribed fire for a few reasons. This pitch pine behind me is a great example. It's easy to identify pitch pine because I think it looks like it's always kind of scraggly and growing in all directions. But when you look at the little bundle of needles, there's 3, as opposed to white pine, which has 5. Pitch pines also have cones that are considered semi-serotinous. These cones are adapted to fire and will open under extreme heat. So if they fall to the ground and a prescribed fire is introduced to the system, the fire not only reduces the duff and dead material on the ground and gives that cone access to bare soil to germinate, it also opens the cone and allows those seeds to germinate. So it provides that double benefit. The taproots of pitch pine also grow straight down into the ground and are very wide and are adapted to grab as many nutrients and as much water as they possibly can in what is otherwise very dry and very deep sand. A lot of the bunch grasses that grow out here are native and cool season grasses. That means they come up early in the spring, they grow in tight clumps, and they have incredible rhizomes below the ground that are particularly well adapted at gathering nutrients. The soil is pretty nutrient poor, so anything they can do to grab those nutrients will benefit those species as opposed to other introduced grasses that may be in places that are not maintained by prescribed fire. Another adaptation that these perennial plants have, and many of the other species have out here, is that when the prescribed fire is done early in the spring before everything greens up, all of their growth systems are still below ground, so they aren't getting damaged. The species that already have growth systems above ground, like some of the hardwood trees, those are the ones that get damaged. So the prescribed fire actually resets some of the undesirable vegetation and promotes the native and desirable vegetation that is so specific to this natural community type. For the birders out there, folks that like to come out and take a walk, this is just a cacophony of sound, and there's a handful of species that are well adapted to this type of open habitat, but don't like all of the trees or all of the woody plants. So there's a bunch of species such as grasshopper sparrow, eastern meadowlark, upland sandpiper, bobolink, savanna sparrow. Not all here today, but this is the kind of habitat that they like. Big open chunks of grassland of 60, 80, 100 acres or more, which, as I said before, is so rare across the state. One thing they like to do is to run around the little tussocks of vegetation and the small clumps of perennial grasses. It's where they can hide from predators, it's where they can search for food, and also where they build their nests.
In writing the burn plan, that's part of the prescription, is the timing of burning before they would be nesting and not interfering with their habitat.